You know, when I first saw him sitting there, I was like, holy smokes, am I seeing double? And then I realized, oh nah, I'm just dealing it. I like that the box art has the Autobot symbols out. And I also know that eye color isn't the be-all and end-all of faction allegiance, but you don't have to be proud to be looking at Double Dealer and being like, he doesn't even go here! Might I just quickly add, how much more dignified is this packaging posing than Leader Class Optimus Prime was when he got strung up like Wolverine for the box? Okay, alright. I can work with this. First impressions, straight out the box, he's tall. He's tall, he's broad. I love him. That was until, and I hope I'm not ruining this for anybody, but once you bend those knees, you suddenly realize his proportions feel off. I'm trying to shoot him reasonably low so that it doesn't look too bad. And on camera, it's not looking too bad. It's something that I'm really noticing with the, you know, hand feel of it all. He's got some long thighs for some short shins. Once you've got him standing up straight, you don't notice it so much. But then as soon as he bends that knee, he's just Tommy from the zoo. Why, I leave the zoo every night with the dreams that come from cheese. Cheese is a kind of meat. I guess the trick to that will be just to keep him throwing out some tall boy poses. You get a reasonable range out of the leg, and he's got good tilt. And because of the transformation, you can give him a little bit of a twist, but that does expose some hollow ankles. Which, like, hollow cavities isn't something on Transformers that really irks me too much, as long as from most views it looks tight. Because I understand that they have to fold away somewhere, right? It's a really tight sculpt. I love the kind of, on his face, I love how he's got that sunken eyes second face thing that some of them get, which gives them that really gross, am I wearing someone else's face kind of look. And they really have been quite generous with the paint apps on this guy. Like all of this through here is painted, silver accents on the front there. We get a lot of painted detail in here to separate a lot of these spaces. Even the little accents on the thighs, that extra blue there, these are things that I feel like they didn't necessarily need to do. It's nice to know that not all leader class figures are going to require an armor up and a boost up to be able to get them to the sort of leader class heights we're sort of more accustomed to. It is nice to have just a bigger boy, even if he has some long ass thighs. You know what, I bet a lot of people aren't going to agree with me, because on camera, it's not as odd as it feels in hand. I'm harping on about it, it's probably going to keep coming up, but god damn it, they just feel off. Those thighs are so long. If this section here had been able to shuffle up a little bit somehow on sliders or something, I would have considered him virtually perfect in robot mode. Because we get waist swivel, you get all kinds of shapes out of the arms. I love it when this kind of hinge is housed inside of the shoulder joint. It even makes them look more like they do in the cartoons and comics and things. Double jointed elbows, wrist swivel, and then these funny little shins. Oh man, I don't know. Alright, I promise I'll stop talking about it. I will stop shin shaming him from this point out. I do think it's worth talking about a little bit more. He's just an interesting choice to bring back as a leader class figure. Didn't feature in the G1 cartoon, wasn't a super big factor in any of the comics. Even in the modern comics, he kind of had that cool spotlight hot rod thing. In Super God Master Force, it was kind of cool that depending on how the bracelet came down was which, you know, alt mode you got. But the kid who had the bracelets was pretty annoying, right? I feel like we're doing a bit of an Elvis thing, only shooting him from the waist up, but it's where he looks the best. We don't need to see that Elvis pelvis. Yeah, robot. Right, while we're here as well, seems like a good time to point out, as a mercenary, depending on which side you're playing, bam, you gotta have the right plates showing. Oh yeah. It's like a little bit, you know, bootlegger swapping out their plates, or a little bit Jason Statham in the Transporter. Hey, I'm not that guy you're looking for. Me shoulders are different, sort of. Even though he is bigger than sort of what we've been seeing in the last couple of years when it comes to later class, he does still come with a veritable bevy of accessories. So the first one I think is, you know, much more relevant in other modes, but you can store this. You just whip around the back, flip up this piece, fold that up, and then there's a couple of tabs that just slots in. Boot. That does also give us access to another couple of ports if you really wanted to trick him out, which I do. I do want to trick him out, but we're going to have to be patient double dealer before we get into full assault armory death mode, because you do still have some more of your own weaponry. Boom! Shoulder missile. Which side? Where's that side? You got to have it. It's a whole part of the look. I think it's worth losing that whole side of your peripheral vision, because if you just feel anything, it's just a quick hop, skip and a jump to obliterate whatever happened to be behind you. And if you have a faction swapping kind of nature, regardless of who you hit, it's a win for someone. But wait, there's more. This is like how his missile breaks down for this mode. This is a big gun. Earthworm Jim would be impressed. I have noticed it's not a real big peg on that gun, so he does have some issues hanging onto it. But even if he drops it, there's more, right? We got this machiny gunny looking thing. We'll get that up here on one shoulder on a jaunty angle, because it's cooler. Everybody knows you have your sidearms at a jaunty angle. We've also got this thing, which I guess is some kind of radar dish jammer locator. Let's throw that up there too, because why not? Awesome little like missile pods, or maybe they're like extra shells for this big gun or something, I don't know. We can go ahead and throw them on his ankles, because yeah bro, with them short legs you want to draw extra attention to your ankles. I think they're cooler on his wrists. It's just me, I'm just throwing it out there. You know, that's something a badass would do. That's almost like Bay vs. Hound level of just, I got stuffs on me. Seeing him all fully decked out, you can understand how he's managed to get away with the whole mercenary thing. Why the likes of Megatron and Optimus would tolerate the involvement of a player like this. Because of what he brings to the party, yo. All that shooty shooty bang bang. Now, the fun doesn't end there. He is a double Power Master and the final God Master, depending on, you know, what fictions you're going with. I'm fairly certain that the only other double Power Master, double God Master, was the big bad Overlord himself. Or, you know, if you're going by the Super God Master Force of things, a couple of different dudes controlling the robot sometimes differently together. Master Force is whack, yo. But either way, he came with 2 mini partners. Or different versions of the one kid. It's a confusing backstory. Go and watch Super God Master Force, if for no other reason than that being just an incredible title. So, in homage to all that jazz, right? Oh, little engine bitty. Well, the engine bit can come off, just like on the old one when they'd turn into engines, because that's what Power Masters / God Masters did. Bloop, little Nebulum partner. But in the name of cross-playability, you can actually get his original partner's Knock and Scar in the form of repainted Soundwave cassettes. I have mine on the way because the idea of, you know, any partnered Transformers really appeals to me, especially if there's like a storage for them. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'd like to be safe and warm tucked away in Soundwave's chest where no one could get me. But I digress. I don't have Knock and Scar yet, but I do have Ravage and Laserbeak, so I thought let's have a quick look at how that goes. In you pop, son. Boop. Disappointingly, only one fits. I know it's a side gimmick and not like a big deal because you actually have to buy another purchase to actually get them. Ooh, the old double purchase point ploy. It is still a neat feature, and I will definitely pop knock and or scar in there. Which one I'll choose, I guess, will depend on how much Double Dealer feels like listening to big band music. I don't know. Now, it just wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't exploit the play pattern to its fullest. So let's weaponize, shall we? Dealer's choice. Oh yeah, there we have it. I mean, look at that. That is some playability right there. Oh man, we have fun, don't we? Well, fun fact, you can get him to carry Astro Train's weapons caboose as a backpack. Now that shoulder missile is cool, but obviously you want to be able to see if it can combine into one big bang bang. And it can be the one big shooty boy. And now I know what you're thinking. I can hear your thoughts, maybe even your words at the screen. You know who that reminds me of? Yeah, I do. I know, bro. Because I had the same damn thought. This is getting awkward. Right, if somebody looked at Ultra Magnus and thought, you know what? We can probably do Galaxy Convoy. I don't know how someone hasn't looked at this and not thought, yeah, Cybertron Vanguard Red Alert. Let's get all up in that jazz. I think the only things probably stopping it are a perceived lack of interest, which for me, I'm all about that Unicron trilogy. And, you know, the bird mode, and thirdly, the fact that, unless I'm mistaken, we haven't had any Selects, Pulse, leader-sized, price-pointed items yet. So it's probably a pipe dream, but like, you could do it, right? This piece is kind of a nothingy sort of piece, so you could very easily just turn it into that chest. Different head, different paint job. I honestly think people would be happy with that. I kind of want to play with Red Alert more, so let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a throwback and get amongst some Unicron trilogy stuff, because I would be more than happy to. Depending on, like, you know, which media and which fiction you're engaging with, depends on how well known it is about his faction swapping. Personally, I like to think he's quite open about it. I mean, it is his goddamn name. I know in, like, you know, you had the comic storyline where it was like, is it double? Is it dealer? Who knows? And we've already talked about the bracelets of multiple personalities. But I like to think that he's just swanning around, joining whichever battle seems most appropriate at the time. And he definitely looks just at home amongst either faction. Maybe leaning a little bit towards the Decepticons, I don't know. It's that face, man, he just looks like a mean dude. Given the whole mercenary faction thing, the only other members I've got is Slitherfang. Well, actually I have two that I've joined together. Into a super snake! Let's have a quick look at how they look on him as a couple of blast shields. Whoop! That's pretty cool. Patwang! Patwang! Wonder Woman! To me, he's really selling it. Like, he really feels like the part of the mercenary. I don't know what it is, but he's kind of almost throwing off Mandalorian kind of vibes to me, just with the amount of heavy ordnance and the whole factionless mercenary kind of thing. Can't you just imagine Prowl tracking him down to some sort of like seedy off-world outer rim bar to offer him a job? He's just minding his business, feeding some stray street Sharkticons. Interesting hobby you got there. Make it quick, Prowl. The Sharkticons get hungry at this time of day. I've got a job for you. Megatron has a job offer for you. Oh, to be popular. Yeah, boy. One thing I really enjoy is that the first step of the instructions for both of his alternate modes is to assign the faction symbol. Which is cool, that's a really cool throwback to how one of Clouder's alt modes being activated by his Autobot bracelet alignment and the other being activated by his Decepticon bracelet alignment. And that's kind of where the fun ends. I ain't gonna lie to you, this transformation is involved and I found it difficult, and it's one of those ones where at times I felt like I was pushing the joints to their limits. Put it this way, this is one that I'm probably only going to transform him for the purposes of this video, and then he may as well be an action master. So the first things we want to do is get those Decepticon symbols down, and then bop out these chest pieces, fold out these leggedy bits. Now, if you keep those straight, he has a couple of tabs here with corresponding ports there. Now this is the first of the awkward finagles I found. Just to get all of these pieces to sit right. There we go. Yes, over on this side. Oh, well, that one happened a lot quicker and easier. That's cool. Go ahead and flick those hands out the way. Get these feet, pull them down flat. And then this is where the whackness, as far as I'm concerned, begins. So turn this around like so. Right? Then you want to bend these up. And then on the inside, you'll see there's these grooves here. And this black tab on the inside of the knee needs to sit in there. It's difficult. It's really difficult. So you kind of just got to, as it goes, convince it that it wants to go all the way in, even though it actually sort of doesn't. And once you know you've got it clear, you'll be able to get this tab into the hip here. So I found that is the best way to know if you've gotten the leg actually plugged in properly. At the top you can see it should sit all snug and flat against that. These should tab together nicely. You should be able to nicely get these hip pieces in. Yeah, God, that part of the process, do not enjoy. Then what you want to do is pull this little sucker up, get this chest piece, bring it down, and then use that to secure it into place. Then we can straighten this piece out, bring these arm legs down, flop out your little birdie foot, come around onto the back. How tight the wings get is actually pretty cool. So fold out one set, fold out the other set, get that tip. It's an impressive wingspan. Look at that jazz. Then while we're here doing this, we want to pull this panel back. That'll expose our birdie noggin. And then you just want to flip it around. Actually, maybe I shouldn't have closed those first. Before you do the legs fully, you want to go and get this head around. The first time I did this, it felt really wrong to be pushing his head past that point. But you just got to deal with it. Close that back up. This birdie neck is on a double hinge, so pull that out, straighten it around. Now we can close these bits around, and there's pretty well the basis of our bird. It's a pretty fat, thick, buzzardy turkey sort of affair, as transforming birds so often are. Not a lot of mass to a bird, really, but obviously there is the integration of the accessories and the big missile. Put the missile together, get that, and plug that in like so. Get these out of the way. Then this is another part that feels really, oh God, just wrong. It all feels wrong. So these prongs here want to hook over this, and it feels like you're stretching it to its limits. And this base piece also doesn't like to fit and stay. So I find it easy to flick that off, get in there. Oh God, oh, that just feels wrong. It just feels so wrong. Ooh. Then slip this piece in underneath. And there we have him. Rock Flag and Eagle! As a triple changing beast mode, it is pretty good, right? You get a little bit of articulation out of those bird legs if you're coming in for like a right? Good articulation out of that bird head, which is where you're going to do most of your posing, including a pretty good bird jaw. The wings don't come any further forward. You can't do a dive with those wings. You can do like a dive back. It's one of those things, if you were to sort of completely redesign the idea of the character and the triple changer and stuff, you'd find much sleeker ways to do it. What I love about this double dealer is that it's in your face with the 80s-ness of it all. And with them being so big and blocky, I kind of like the idea that that is a shortfall of the Cybertronian race, that they can only mimic organics to a point. So from their perspective, they're like, yeah, what are you talking about? That looks exactly like a bird. No one would ever spot the difference. If we come to the underside, you can secure this missile for an old school flavor. And then this piece can actually go over that second clasp there. So you're still able to fasten the tail. I use that term loosely. You're still able to fasten that in place.
But Dorothy, it's just a yellow brick.
While we've got him here like this, why don't we have a quick look and see how he compares to some other beasts of burden. That is one big bird boy. Alright, we've got his auto brands flipped around, so let's go ahead and have a look at missile truck mode. Is it a V2? I keep thinking of it as like a V2 missile alt mode. But I tend to think of every missile truck as a V2 because of playing too much Command and Conquer as a kid. Getting him into missile truck mode, V2 mode, is a fair bit easier than the bird mode. It also feels a little bit less like you're going to break him. Not a hell of a lot less, because these legs just... Right. Get his legs around like this. Give him a twist. Fold him around. We don't have to do the horrible collapsing knee stuff like we did in bird mode, but you do still want to slide those knees forward to sit flush against the inside of that leg cavity. Because if you see here, there's that tab there. You want to make sure that that fits in nice and snug on both sides. It's another one of those things, because of how loose his joints are and everything, it can be awkward to get it to stick properly. Then what you want to do is bring those arms around, flip in his hands, fold that arm around. This notch wants to go into that tab. So it's starting to already take shape. You want to take this chest piece, give it the old flipso, and there's a couple of tabs and slots there to help hold all that in. Make sure that the wing tips of both wings are down. You know, that gives you just enough clearance. These arms are on a double hinge. They're another one that feels off. Like, you really want to make sure that you're grabbing from the right areas. It just feels a lot of the time like it's not meant to be doing the things that you're making him do. Cool. It is a bit of a shame that he has such a visible head, and because of the neck brace, you can't actually turn his head a full 360. So he has no choice but to be looking there. I guess this piece disguises it a little bit, but you know, not a huge amount. There we have him in his sort of base vehicle mode. Get this piece. Now again, you got to fold this up, and it just, it never ever feels as though it really wants to come. One thing I've noticed that I'm a pretty big fan of is these hexagon ports. It just means you don't have to worry about any of your 5mm pegs getting like vacuum sealed and stuck, and you won't have any like grapple issues. Anyway, so to go ahead and secure the missile, you see these two pegs here. They fit quite nicely on and snugly, I might add, onto this guy here. Alright, that looks the business. There's a lot of cool sculpted stuff. That chest piece is still kind of confusing as to what that's meant to be. And you get a little bit of jank in here, but who knows, like, right? Like, that sort of thing would probably need a lot of mechanism and what have you. You can, of course, all of his other weapony bips do fit, so, you know. It's again making clever use of those hands folded up to sort of disguise them with a couple of accessories. But, radar dish, machine gun, and then a couple of missile pods on the wrist. Really does make him just as lethal in vehicle mode. And you know, just because I can, here he is with red alert. Just a couple of cool missile truck guys. That's fun, isn't it? When I see what I want, I'm gonna take it. You know it's a good mode when it just brings out the hair metal in you. So obviously, as this figure has been like a Swiss Army knife of playability, there is more to this mode. You can go ahead and set it up to be like a connected base and really make use of, you know, that missile. Yeah. Ugh. What? It fell off? Said no one. So if we lay that out flat, and then put down these, which I love these extra base bits, because, you know, a missile like this, it adds a real sense of gravitas to the whole affair, that it needs to be like missile ready. Uh-oh. Now, the eagle-eyed among you may have observed this is one of those road building posts. In the instructions, they show it being utilized with the Quintesson Judge, which is neat. But I don't have him, so we'll have to play another way. And here's a little taste of his base building abilities and how he can join up to a Mega Supreme. I think I've said it before, and I will cop to being a little bit skeptical of this whole play pattern, road building, base building affair. But as time has progressed, it's really grown on me.
Say, Ironhide, I've been thinking.
Oh, don't hurt yourself, little buddy.
Are we the baddies?
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, it's just, we've got a lot of guns, and a lot of missiles, and a lot of missile-themed people. I mean, that guy behind you is a gun, for crying out loud.
Oh, you've been listening to Decepticon propaganda again, haven't you?
Well, they didn't buy us our missiles, did they?
So, is he worth picking up? That's actually a more difficult question than you'd sort of expect it to be. On the one hand, is he a good toy? No, not really. The transformation feels like you're going to break him. I can see a lot of any kid who got this, I can imagine them breaking his knees at some point, or the amount of force you've got to put on these hips when you're converting that knee. He's a bit janky, he's got short shins. He's not a great toy. Is he tons of fun? Yeah. Yeah, he is. I have no regrets about picking him up. The amount of playability that you get from him and the whole faction swapping thing, I find I can forgive a hell of a lot of his flaws because of it. I guess that's the double dealing nature of him. He could be better as a toy, but could he be more fun to play with and get amongst it with? Nah. It's a bird. It's a tank. You're both right.